All right, time for us to get into a second conversation of the day, and we're talking about the Form 1 transition. In studio, I have Fredrick Muingi, who is an educationist. I also have Mutheu Kassanga. She's the Education Sector Board Member for the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, a board member at the East Africa Science and Technology Commission, a board member of the Kenya Education Management Institute, and a director, Lukenya School. I also have Kelvin. He's a motivational speaker, then tells me recently he was appointed an ambassador. So he's a non-voy. He's a motivational speaker. And we'll be talking a bit about that. I think probably to the close of our program, we'll talk about the Real Men's Conference, because there has been much touted the Real Men's Conference. And it appears like Kevin has managed to make one that is going to happen this weekend, probably before Valentine's Day, and probably men will be better and wiser, right?
I'm wondering why you have not registered. If you're a man enough, you have to go online and register, man. And our main conference is open even for the women.
Kevin. We'll talk about that as we near a close of this program. But probably to start us up, let me start with you, Mutheu. Just the rate of takeoff for the Form 1 transition. Like you rightly pointed, is a second last cohort. How do you rate the reporting yesterday?
Pretty impressive. Day one yesterday was day one. Of course, we'll be seeing a lot of this week being taken up by the Form 1 intake. The last 5-7 years, we've been seeing how the 100% transition policy has literally mopped up and ensured as many children, can access the schools that they have been allocated to. So that in itself has also had a knock-on effect on the numbers that attend school and the pressure that the government has to keep building infrastructure for these schools so that we can accommodate all our children. This year we are transitioning 1.2 million.
Yeah.
Yes, biggest.
Very big number.
Biggest number in the history, and this will every year will keep being the biggest number, because our population, of course, is growing. So in itself, it is a feat of an achievement. It is an achievement. It is really an achievement. And the fact that the government sort of insists that that place for every child is there for that child. And we seem to have succeeded as a country in ensuring that every child ends up where they have been allocated. That in itself is worth celebrating. Yes.
As we talk about the record number, Fred, because there are those who are saying there is a constraint of resources. When you look at the number, 1.2 million, there are those who say some schools will end up congested, or there will be a strain of resources with this number.
Yeah, I think that is quite true because as Madam Mutheu puts it, their government is out to ensure that each one of the learners that go through the primary education up to class 8 transits to the secondary school education. And unlike before, when it was in the hands of the parents to choose or to decide whether their child is to go to school, I mean, this time around the pressure is on everyone, the stakeholders, the parents, the chiefs, everyone, that all the children that complete standard 8, whether they did very well or whether they did not do very well, it should be 100% transition. And you can tell the government is putting a lot of effort towards that direction. I mean, the other time, this time as we are admitting even the junior secondary, we are seeing the government requiring, or the Ministry of Education requiring, that we communicate the numbers that we admit in our schools, because they want to be sure that if it's 1.2, is that particular number full in school. So there's going to be, as you say, strain of resources, and actually it's being experienced because now schools have to intake more than the normal number, given that now we have to achieve this particular target. The government now has also a duty now to ensure that they actually employ more teachers, construct more rooms, because you will find that in some schools, some classes might actually take a huge number than the normal number that is expected. So true, there's going to be strain on resources, but the government, as they say, is equal to the task.
Absolutely. Yeah. Kevin, as you talk about a wholesome student who is being received in a secondary school, obviously this is a new environment, and again, new expectations. They just did the exam the other day, the results were out, and then all of a sudden now there's a new expectation on them. How do they cope?
That's a very good question. and also I think before even we answer the question on how do they cope, we need to address the real issues. If you find yourself in a ditch, the wisest thing is to stop digging. And the challenges around our education sector, I've been in Kenya, been brought up in this country from Meru, and I relate so much even with our president. I wore my first good pair of shoes when I was going to high school, and we used to have Sunday best and all that. But the question is this: there is a problem, which is a good one, with our education system. We moved from the 844 now to the CBC, and one of the biggest challenge is even those who are supposed to teach CBC, they have agreed. I remember like in Meru, my sister, her 2 children, we went to move the kids from one school to a public school. It was a private school to a public school. Because the private school, you are paying so much money, but when you compare with the actual CBC that is being taught in public school, totally the children even do not understand the issue of the CBC. Personally, I've also been a victim. At Juja, I took my kids to a private school that I thought, this school, we were paying a lot of money, international curriculum. I wanted them to do the international curriculum and all that, but to do the foundation with the 844. But I realized if I put my son, Wisdom, who is now in school at Juja, the school he was in, I put him with someone in this, even a lower grade, in a public school at Juja. The other child was even better in terms of the knowledge and all that. And apparently, my child knew all the types of foods, all the types of pizzas, all the types of best places to tour. So the biggest problem is this. Even as we address the issue of transition, the elephant in the room is why. If we don't address that, if you ask the ministry today, and I want to pose this one as a challenge, when I was in school, primary school, my primary school teacher back in Meru, Pale Kadhigu Primary School, I was with our Senator Kadhuri Muronge the other day and I was challenging him. My primary school teacher told me I'm below average. And it's true I was below average according to those standards. And I had to repeat class 3 so that I would become top 10. We could repeat a class so that we become number 1 or number 2. And that thing followed me even to high school. I was among in 01, when we introduced 5 subjects in high school, I was among the pioneer class, and I scored 231 marks out of 500. That means for sure I was below average. So even,
I wanted to say that.
Even going to school, according to their standards, even going to school, high school, I remember I went to a school where I was not invited in that school. My mother went to ask for me whether I can be admitted because I never qualified. And in Form 1, I got mathematics, I got 59%. Remember, this is plus minus. No, there is no trying. Plus minus, those are integers. Wait for the second time, you get the real stuff. When we started the real stuff, I moved from 59 to 17%. So I don't know what 17% is. That is, so the point is, my biggest question is this. As we take our children, we have the 1.2 million school kids that are transitioning. My biggest question is this. We are taking them to go and do what? We are taking them to a system 1 that does not develop the student. Based on the grades I was getting, I had been written off. And then I got into gangsters. In Form 1, nilikuwa nakatia mademu wa Form 4. I was in Form 1, my girlfriend was the head girl. In case you needed a girlfriend and you did not know the words to use, you talk to me, I'll give you the words, or you tell me to approach a girl for you, I'll bring you. And as in, I'm showing you, because the system showed if you don't perform well, then you are nobody then. I remember I wanted to become a bus driver like Mr. Kamau, because the teacher told me, based on the grades you are getting, you should be a Mr. Kamau or a policeman. As in, That is the thing that we need to change. Until towards the end of Form 1, I thank God for my school, Thiga High School, and our principal then, Mr. Genson Gitonga, and the CU patron, Mr. Nchunge. I started even shaving punk. You remember the punk?
In
the
Form
pushback. In Form 1.
You were a
first term 1. And no, that is nothing. I remember one day we were given a punishment to do a pit latrine, a compost pit, 5 feet. I'm in Form 1. And then we showed the teacher there is nothing you are saying us to do. Instead of 5 feet, we did 10 to show him. And then, as in all those things, the class prefect was my best friend, Mr. Kibaki. I know he's watching. And I could be written as a noisemaker even before I speak. One day in the list of noisemakers, they read the noisemakers and I was absent. And we were best of friends. I could go, I take the book of the noisemakers, I throw it in the toilet, and when we come back to classroom, I'm the one to assist the prefect. As in, you see all that. But where do we change?
All right.
That is the biggest question. We are taking 1.2 million kids to break them. Teachers, what are you doing? You don't understand the CBC. That is the honest truth.
All right. Let me cut you short so that I bring in Mutheu, because the critical question he raises is on the why.
Capturing. I think I picked up that the education system as it is right now is not able to find the strengths in a child. That's what I have gleaned. And he gives his own personal example where, look at him today. Is this something that could have been nurtured through the education system rather than him struggling possibly? I don't know. After now, Form 1, yes, tag, yes, but I don't know after that.
I'll tell you what
after
happened.
that, yeah.
Yes.
And that's, I think that's where we lose it in Kenya, and that's why perhaps this change we are going through is so necessary. Time and time again, and I think on your show I've mentioned it here. Even as you say, the weak children. We have no genius in Kenya. You want to tell me 52 million people or 49 million people from independence, we don't have genius?
But the teachers have shown them, if you don't get an A,
not even
poor.
that. You find people making helicopters in the village and they dropped out of school.
Not in Kenya.
In Kenya, you find them making with mabati.
Where?
Yes,
Where?
yes. Yeah. This is a fact. Our education system throws out the best.
So because you never got an A, you are thrown out
and because
to make your own
most
helicopter.
people who are brilliant at something sometimes might have a special need. So the system does not cater for you. It is meant for those who can pass in maths. It is meant for those who can pass in English.
Sciences.
You have to do a humanity. You cannot excel in the one thing that you are good at. And me, I have been part of the CBC journey right from the beginning. And this is what I think I see in CBC now. And he has a point. We are seeing more creativity in public schools. And I think KICD and a few other agencies can actually confirm this. And this is because, you know, with CBC we are saying use locally available materials. In most private schools, we are rushing to the shops to buy materials rather than putting our minds to work to use locally available materials. And when you look at some of the project work that is coming out of public schools, it's absolutely, truly fantastic. Yeah, I got shared online. Somebody shared with me a picture from somewhere in Mwala. A child who had made a model, a grade 6 child, who had made a model house that was so beautiful. It looked like an architect's model. Standard 6. Grade 6, sorry. And I think this is some of the creativity that is now emerging in CBC, and we are finding it in the most unlikely places and celebrating it. Because you see, with CBC, we are documenting. In fact, teachers complain that the documentation of CBC. But because of that documentation, we are able to see the brilliance across the board in some of the most unlikely places. So unlike 844, where private schools could shine because of KCPE marks, CBC, we are seeing public schools emerging, and we're seeing these kids shining. For me as a private school person, I look at it as a challenge. And I'm telling, for instance, in my own team, staki kuona shopping list. We live in an environment. Make do with what is in the environment. Let the children think, because after all, we live in a modern world. We are talking recycling, we are talking reusing, we are talking climate change. We are talking, how else if we are not able to make the best out of what is already in the market? So in some urban schools, like he says, we are seeing some brilliant reuse finding schools like in Kibra and doing fantastic things with agriculture with very minimal resourcing, reusing bottles, reusing sacks, stacked farming and whatnot. And you're seeing small, important changes happening in their own families as a result. You know, you can't wait to see the big picture as CBC progresses. Even though we are still apprehensive, we are still scared. It's true, any new thing. But so far, the brilliance that is emerging is worth celebrating in itself.
Absolutely. But yet, Fred, we find ourselves in, I don't know to call it an unfortunate situation or fortunate, to push this cohort that entered yesterday and yet another through the formal 844 system that we used to before we can bring in the CBC cohort. How do we go through that?
Yeah, so I think the year that the children that have reported to school, are reporting because they started reporting yesterday. They are still reporting today, maybe up to the end of the week. Happens to be the second last group in the 844 system. And I think to me it's a good challenge because you know the exit of the 844 now gives room for schools to exhibit now the CBC properly. Because the challenge now facing schools is now how to deal with the GSS, or what you call the junior secondary school, in the same system or the same compound, the same institution with the 844, which is the last class, which is the class 8 that is currently there. But as we exit them, that's by the end of this year to join the secondary school, you know, the primary school now will have more space now. Will open up to be able now to move the grade 7 to grade 8, which now gives them room to concentrate on CBC properly without necessarily having to infuse it with the 844. However, personally, even as he was speaking and I was asking why children go to school, and I think Mutheu has also weighed in on the same. To me, I think there lies the biggest challenge that we are facing today in our education system, because there was need for us to be able to change from 844 to CBC because of now what Mutheu has even put it properly. Children are now starting to show up. Their creativity and innovation starting to show up because we have kind of directed their energies and their focus towards creativity and innovation as one of the core competences in the CBC. But the biggest challenge that faces us is that understanding of the reason why they changed from 844 to CBC. Are all the stakeholders properly aligned to the reason for this change? I can tell you for free that, as Mutheu says, there is now, there is a difference that's being seen in the children, especially public schools. I must say that the concept of CBC is giving rise to children to show up what they have within themselves, which requires nurturing. You see, a child may be able to show that they can be able to model a house. You know, it shows that child has a capacity within themselves. But is the system ready to nurture that particular potential that's showing up to be real skill?
A paradigm shift in mentality.
And the stakeholder, I can assure you that not enough has been done to be able to cause that.
All right.
The teachers have not been properly trained. I am heading, as you say, I'm an educationist, but I'm also the CEO of a group of schools called MGA Group of Schools, and I interview teachers. And when I'm getting a position to feel with a teacher and I sit down and I ask them, even the basic concepts of CBC, actually you find that teacher has nothing, cannot even be able to tell you the vision of this particular curriculum. And the teacher has been handling, they can actually tell you they have 5 years experience, they're in the classroom teaching children, they do not have even the finest concepts of what this curriculum is about. So a lot of effort I know has been done, but I must say it is not enough. A lot need to be done. Look at also now the aspect of the implementation, schedule. And what the government need to put in place to be able to assure that this system gives us the result that we expect of it. The confusion that we've seen in the GSS. At the very beginning, it's been said that the GSS is supposed to be domiciled in the secondary schools. Suddenly, when the secondary schools have already started putting, government has started putting classrooms in the secondary schools, suddenly GSS is to be domiciled in primary schools. You get? Okay, now we start now putting in the structures again to be able to host GSS, which to me was the perfect idea. But my question is, what is the government doing currently to ensure that we do not fall in the same pit when it comes to the senior secondary?
It is very important, a very important question you asked. But let me bring back this conversation to the Form 1 transition. And you see the kind of reaction it has elicited in terms of preparedness. But I'm just wondering, from the story you told us, it's not a hopeless situation, definitely, because we must encourage the students who are already in the system. So how do they cope? Back to the same question. How do they cope?
Let's go back to the same question.
Yes.
And as I answer that, there is a question that Mweshinyo asked me. Now, from all
I
that...
like being called Mweshinyo, even though I'm not.
Oh, okay, don't worry.
No, it's an honor.
Yeah,
It's an honor.
saying,
It's an honor.
let me tell you. The education system we have is not meant to solve our African problems. That is why, if you take a student from Kenya, from the best school in Kenya, private school, and you take them to Dubai, I'm saying that because I'm based there, or maybe to the US, the question is, take them to an interview. Someone who was trained in Kenya and another one who was trained in Dubai, man, you'll be disappointing not just the child, but even the teacher that taught that child, of course not the parent that gave birth to them. And the problem is, we still have a colonial mentality and approach to education. That is why the system of education that we currently have trains us to be doers, not thinkers. It trains us not to think, but to do. So that when the colonial came, they came with a Bible on one hand, or a Quran on the other hand, and so they started telling us about heaven, a place that we hope to go, which is true. Heaven is there, depending on where you believe in. But this is the biggest question. A very senior pastor asked us a question. What if you realize, after following the Bible, you realize there is no heaven? Because there's a place we believe in. What if you, if someone was, I like thinking outside the box or without the box. As a result now, they bring medicine, that is health. They also bring, they divide us, then they bring borders for the colonial borders. But when you go to the other countries, go to the US, I'm sorry to say so, all the American states, not one country, they have one currency. But here in Kenya, they tell you, you use your Kenyan, have your own university, your own. And then, now, you take someone to oversee a program that is not fitted for Kenya, a program they also don't understand. Now, you tell me, what will happen? Even Jesus in the Bible said, 2 blind people, and they cannot lead the other. I'm sorry to say so because she's...
You know, Kelvin, I'm sitting here wondering, for a parent watching you on telly this morning, or a student who was admitted to Form 1 this morning, being admitted in school, are you saying that their situation is completely hopeless?
It's not hopeless.
Thank you. I want you to go to the hopelessness.
Now, this is where...
Or the lack of it.
This is where the Hustler Nation came.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry to say so. I'm not being political. I'm not being political. I like what our deputy president... Let me tell you, we have a culture that does not celebrate sacrifice. Isn't it? Now, the future is smart. Some of the skills that we learn in school today, in the next 5 years, the young people, I'm telling you the truth, you may not be employable if you don't change. The only constant thing in this life is change. Technology is changing. From the richest man in the world, at one point, not Mark Zuckerberg, but this guy from, not Virgin, but what? Tesla. Look at even Mark Zuckerberg and all that. Tesla said, that is Elon Musk, the challenge to the world is not the population or the people increasing or even poverty. The biggest challenge that we must be prepared for is artificial intelligence. Today, and this is a discussion we need to be having, and we start having, that child who is in school, they need to know that all is not lost. We need to begin with a change of mind from the teacher. Let me tell you, you can only become a better version of your teacher. In case you have an ignorant instructor, they will teach you their ignorance. And then you have, that is why when you find parents, when you call your child foolish as a parent, do you know what that means? When a parent calls the child stupid, it means reproduction is after its own kind. If you want to see the real meaning of a foolish grown-up man who has lived maybe for 60 years, then there is no way a snake can give birth to a cow. So we need to begin with a mind shift. I like when my brother is saying he interviews the teachers and they don't understand. That is a problem. Why are we giving our students to people that don't understand? Let's go even to the ministry itself. There is a lot that is happening, but we want to challenge even the government, me being part of it. And the question is this: why are we giving our children? And I was here during the Inside Business, we were with one of the MPs here, and he told me that I should be a politician. And I told him I'll become a politician, an MP, if MPs will start working for free from the president, for one reason. You build substandard schools, because you are paid well, you fly your children out. It is the high time that freedom that our president talks about, bottom up. In Rwanda, public schools became more valuable than private. And private schools, they started closing because they want. So what I'm saying is this: as much as we go to the student, then the students also now they start doing a mind shift.
All right. Let me cut you short there.
May I just respond to something both the gentlemen have said here? I am a teacher by training, and he is as well. I am 844. The first groups. Me, I did 11 subjects. I didn't ban a school.
Which school?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, you banned a school?
No, I didn't ban a school. Apparently nowadays workload makes children ban schools.
Ban schools, yes.
I did 11 subjects and I did not ban a school. Okay?
It is not the workload. I'm sorry.
That's why I'm saying it. You know. So as we are taking on Form 1 students, I want to first just mention that we are having a societal issue. That this issue you are seeing about teachers is not about teachers, it's about the country in general. We all employ people and we are all finding there's something wrong.
That is right.
And that is why we are changing this curriculum. For sure, I have employed people and I've discovered one thing. Tell them, go on your phone. And people have smartphones. Go to kisd.ac.ke. Now, go in that room and read the curriculum framework. And I asked them, had you ever seen this document before? No. Did you know it was there? Yes. Why hadn't you read it? I had read the newspapers. We have an inbuilt culture across the country. It is not in teaching. Where knowledge seeking is not, people don't appreciate it. Learning to learn. And that is a fundamental core of a country that is going somewhere. Where people are constantly on the outlook for new knowledge. And it is not about teachers alone. We get it in accountants and whatnot and whatnot and whatnot. And it is a product of the curriculum that emphasizes cramming. Because there is no test, why should I read it?
Sorry.
And the very casual discussions of our education that seem to somehow position teachers as submind. Once you get them to read that document, they are brilliant teachers. Am I right? We induct them, and it takes what, 3 days, and they are good.
You get them in, you induct them,
but
and they are good.
Is the problem the curriculum?
The problem is the culture around the old curriculum.
What is this enemy called culture? Let
me just focus here so that we are answering his question. He doesn't have to repeat it.
And
again.
Kevin needs to realize I'm not asking questions.
Oh, sorry.
So as our Form 1s come in, there is an opportunity here. There is an opportunity here to be different. Because the beauty about secondary schooling, and this is why we are adding the years, the countries that have succeeded, and let nobody cheat you. People keep saying we were at Malaysia point, we were the same and we were better. We reduced our secondary schooling, they increased. They have 7 years of secondary schooling, we have 4. Every country, we reduced ours from 6 to 4. There were reasons then But we needed to have done something sooner about our curriculum. Any country that invests in secondary schooling is doing well.
Right.
Full stop. For the kids going to Form 1, there is hope. There is hope. He's right. The world that is coming is a very different world. And it is constantly changing and evolving, literally every minute. Now we are talking what is it called? The app that is doing a lot of GTP.
Yeah, GTP.
Yeah, that can answer questions coherently, and that universities are now struggling to figure out how do we still get students to interact with knowledge when they can use AI. The world is changing at a very fast pace, okay? And we need to be prepared. As a student that has gone to Form 1, look at the knowledge that is exposed to you in that manner. Just don't look at it as something to cram, cheat, get your way out of, get your A, because that is where we are floundering. The cheating, which I believe the government has done the right thing about, compared to 2015 and today, the amount of cheating in exams, we have seen an improvement in the quality of post-secondary students as a result, both in TVET and in universities. So we need to keep our eye on the ball and remember that while we do test as a country and we do summative testing, summative meaning this exam is meant to sort you out and place you somewhere. At the end of the day, a bit of honesty, which something comes from home, values come from home, values come from elsewhere, is what will carry the day. He was a thug, he says. He was a gang leader. I think it was just leadership untapped, if you ask me, and I think I can see it in him. Okay? These are already opportunities in our schools. That students can take advantage of. I can only plead with teachers who feel overworked, stressed, that this is a profession that is a calling.
All right.
It's like preaching. That you are called by something in you to be a teacher. Give it your all, no matter the circumstances. The perfect circumstances don't seem to exist in Africa. We are in whatever circumstance we are in. Look at our kids in northeastern Kenya. Our CS for Interior is still there trying to sort out issues of security. And to me, I'm slightly worried about how many girls from those communities will report to Form 1 and what, as those communities, they will do to ensure they are girls. Because in times of conflict, who suffers the most? It's women and children. In times of drought, we are experiencing a 3-year drought in parts of this country. Who suffers again? Who is prioritized for education? Boys over girls. Okay? So I have worries about the circumstances that some of our children find ourselves in. And it has a knock-on effect over 10 years directly into those families where you see lesser educated people contributing to the cycle of poverty. We are seeing child marriages. The knock-on effects last a generation and another. And we cannot, as a country, I think we need to keep fighting these things that pull us down. We have, like there's a little bit of fight back where children feel like him, they have failed. I think every child has a chance to succeed. That even as you have gone to a school, and I'm now talking to Form 1 children, if they will get to hear this at some point, and to the teachers, encourage children, no matter what. In standard 8, you are all told, get 400, go to Alliance, even if kama hujaipata even marks, you've been scoring 100, you still pray for 400. Give it your best shot in secondary. It's like a rebooting. It's an opportunity again. Take advantage, I know you had asked about what other barriers kids experience in schools. But I hold that thought before we go.
So that we bring in Fred just a little, because in the conversations we're having, in most times we tend to forget the parent. And I have this question particularly because some of the things captured today on the dailies are quite shocking. That there's a fees guideline issued by the Ministry of Education. There are policy guidelines issued by the ministry, some including issues of uniform. If a parent is paying to the upwards of 22,000 shillings for uniform only, and then there's other levies being involved, particularly for day schools, here lunch, they are charging 12,000 or 15,000, which still remains very high. And the question being, is the Ministry of Education a lame duck in this whole process? So much so that you issue your policy direction and then you have people working under you defying that very same guideline.
Yeah, I think that is quite true, that the parent is now like on the receiving end, because The guidelines have been given, and recently actually the guideline concerning school uniform sale by schools. And true to the matter is that schools are still selling uniform, that is for sure. So if it's about flouting the directive, that has been flouted. Yesterday I actually took my daughter to school, and the school I took my daughter, we paid 29,000 for uniform and other, boarding amenities like, mattresses and such, But the uniform had to be picked from school, from socks to every aspect of the uniform of the school. Now, I might look at it from two sides, because when we do not, because schools also exist and different schools, and especially now when we talk about private schools, they are also like in business. And when schools are in business, or when institutions are in business, sometimes part of what they do also could be maybe even the sale of different items that support education could be also a way of them try to also ensure that they remain afloat in business. That's one. But at the same time, I also say that we also have schools are having set standards as concerns the way the children should appear, because how you appear in grooming also determines your mindset and how you look at life finally, because at the end we can say education, you can wear home clothes and still go to school, but you see this uniform brings a bit of uniformity to the students. Schools have also set some standards on how the children should be able to dress to create an impression and give them a mindset about life. And that also makes it difficult for some schools to allow actually to allow this directive, or to adhere to the directive that they can send parents anywhere to go and pick uniform, because if that happens, then you find the standards of the school have been compromised. The only thing I can say is the schools, different schools come up with this set of uniforms. You go to some schools and you realize even the uniform that has been, prescribed for children is out of this world. A child is going to have, 3 trousers, for example, if it's a boy, maybe 3 shirts, how many sweaters, how many fleece jackets. You realize the uniform is just a lot.
Exploitation.
It's exploitation. The price setting is also another area. So I may not be able to categorically say it is necessary for us to really restrict that schools should not at all be able to issue uniform to students. However, my call is on the schools themselves, the management of schools. Be keen and be sensitive to the issues of the pleas of the parents also. When they come to the you asked about the consideration of the parent. It's important for us to be able to have the parent in mind. Parent is a key stakeholder to education. And one of the things that I've realized is happening in school, and especially in some of the private schools that are overpriced, is that they make the parents also start thinking that education, or taking education and viewing education in a different perspective. Not looking at the core business of education, which is learning and building the child and skills and knowledge of the child, but also as an area of fight and conflicts. And these parents sometimes are not finding themselves very well aligned with the school, with the school where their child goes. Many of them now start viewing the school as an area of exploitation. If the school, it does not mean well to them, and therefore their contribution to their child's education is actually limited. And that scares some of them out of the conversation on how education needs to run. So schools need to, and that, I'm talking about the entire system of education, need to realize that the parent is important. The parent need to be considered and need to be brought closer, so that they can be able to work the journey together with the school.
A very important point you make there.
CBC has a very important thing that is doing, because values are a very big aspect of CBC, and I can't wait to see how now junior secondary will roll out. Parental engagement is big. And despite what you're saying, Kenyans don't seem to want to be involved.
The parents themselves.
Again, they complain. Yeah, they complain. It's too much, it's too much. Yet we are saying, look, it is proven. Science has proven it over and over and over again. When a parent is involved in the growth of a child, that child is more likely to be successful. That child will have fewer discipline issues in secondary. And we seem to believe that our own parents, the way they used to say, go to school, and they forget you there. was a method of rearing nowadays. We are living in a very different world today.
Sorry, I'm not.
Have like about 2 minutes to
I'm not the devil's advocate,
Yes.
but I'm just asking a question. Why do we need uniform to go to school?
It's a good question.
It's simply because it's a business. It's something we need to... Some of these private schools are owned by some of the political leaders. The other thing is...
But private schools are the ones who do it.
Why even the high school... No, the problem is this, even the public and the private. Why do you need a uniform? Number two, why do you want... Do you know what it takes to be a parent in this country? It should be included in the 1,000 ways of dying. For one reason, the stress a parent goes through, look at the typical hustler. You leave your house at 5. Like today I was in Nairobi by 5 a.m. hustling, isn't it? You leave your house at 4, you go to Gikomba or to these places, isn't it? You come back at 6 with only 1,000. And you want me to sit with the child to train them on something that whatever I was trained, I was doing it for the other program. The teacher told me I am. No, as in, I'm just bringing. The point is this. The point is this. I'm saying this.
I want to challenge you.
Let me give you my challenge. Let me give you my challenge.
Your challenge is in that.
No, this is my challenge.
Yes.
My challenge is this. Let us not be mechanical. Let us not think in a straight line. The world is not a straight line. The world is moving. Make it easy for me to check the homework for my child,
That's
even
what
while I'm at work. Make it, that is what I'm saying. Make it easy for me
that's what we are saying.
wherever I am. But I'm just challenging the curriculum, because the problem is not the curriculum. The problem is the designers of the curriculum. That we designed a curriculum that we don't understand.
All right. A mental shift that he talked about. Let me give you 30 seconds to make your final.
I've not made my final remarks.
I will give you.
Okay. My final remarks are this. Kenyans, we beat ourselves hard. We really do. Yet our Kenyan products are still the best, some of the best in Africa. That means we are doing something right somewhere. Perhaps we hold ourselves to very high standards. But right now, one of the things we need to do is grab back our youth. We are seeing a problem with values in our youth. There's no way schools can do them by themselves. We need parents, and we need parents to understand their role to the human being they have brought onto this world, to make sure that this human being is a valuable citizen of this world. We have seen what the effects of the breakdown of values in our communities. He says he's holding a men's conference, and one of the things they are discussing is some of these things that we are seeing impacting our younger men and women. Let's be honest and fair to both genders. We cannot say men are the only problems in Kenya. We are tackling alcoholism, we are tackling drugs, we have so many real societal issues that we are trying to tackle. After they have manifested, we can work together with educators, with schools, to ensure that we have a Kenyan at the end that we all celebrate.
All right. I allowed the lady more than 30 seconds.
Okay.
Because of
So there's biasness.
Very quickly, 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. My concluding remarks are that, one, that education is the key to success. It has been said many times, and I want the parent listening to me, and also the students and teachers and every other stakeholder in the education system to realize that education for our children is the thing that we need to focus at very seriously, because it will determine the future of this person. And let me say, in our country, we are privileged today that we've been able to make a shift from a system that drained or did not help our learners grow in terms of skills, in terms of innovation, creativity, in terms of values. But today we have the CBC curriculum. The implementation of the curriculum is now at the junior secondary level, and we are happy that the government has been able to give a good direction, and now children are in school and they are learning. My only call is this, that for the next level of education, which is the senior secondary, I believe the government needs to seriously look into how we transition our junior secondary students to senior secondary, so that this information is relayed and is given in good time for preparation, especially for investors in education who want to prepare properly so that they can be able to handle the senior secondary school in a manner. Remember, the senior secondary is actually the pinnacle of the CBC, because that's where now each child is going to take to their pathway. If not properly handled, then the whole concept of CBC will be lost.
All right.
And therefore, my call is on the parents to be able to cooperate with the schools and also the government to be able to give proper direction.
All right. Finally, Kelvin, Twitter your men's conference here.
Mr. Kioria, niko na swali. You give her more than 30 seconds and you give the men. You see the...
Now you want to start complaining?
No, I'm not complaining.
Okay,
I'm just saying. Kwa nini mnafikiria wanaume? Sorry, my point is this, and I will close with this.
Yeah.
The future is smart. And the religious sector in this nation, I represent World Peace Association, and yesterday, on Sunday, the president came to launch a smart city, courtesy of Bishop Mark Kariuki.
Majestic City?
And the Majestic City, to be the first smart city. And the religious caucus in this nation, both the Islam, the Muslim, and that is the agenda of the World Peace Association, to work through the religious setups, one, to break the barriers, whether you are Muslim or not, or a Christian, and to tell you that we can spread peace and become the agents of change. The future is smart. Now, we have been told that education is the key to success. Yes, we have the key. But the question is, where is the padlock to open? And that is why you find many people, many Kenyans have certificates, someone with a PhD, but they are pulling a cart out there, but they are looking for that. Now, this weekend, the men conference is a men conference open for women, because the women have been empowered the longest. And do your research. The thorn in the flesh for men is women.
Oh God.
And the thorn in the flesh for women is men. If the men and the women don't come now, you see, now this is the problem. Because of the empowerment of the... Now look at the second lady, Her Excellency, the wife, the Deputy President,
Pastor Dorcas.
Pastor Dorcas. Yeah. She's pushing for the boy child. Do you know why? Let me ask you the question. Sorry.
And your time is out.
Sorry, the remarks is this. Today, many men don't go home early because of their women. That is a discussion to talk about. And these are things we need to address. The women should come and sit there and understand the men. Then, somewhere in June, we'll do a women conference
where men will also be allowed to attend.
And that is the discussion that we want to have. Right. We are saying the theme is against all odds. We want to look at the becoming of Kioria.
Yeah.
Now, when the young people look at you today in school, they think they want to become journalists and host a show like you. But have you ever slept hungry, by the way, in Nairobi? Have you ever slept in a slum? You see, when we see you celebrities, there's a question. Have you ever slept in a slum? Have you ever, if you have never gone to
Kevin,
school,
I've allowed you too much time.
If you have never gone to school without shoes, then you may not advise someone who is sleeping hungry.
So Friday and Saturday men's conference?
No, it's Saturday, Sunday, full day. Get online. Check the link, the Fountain Global TV. That is a TV from the UAE.
Okay.
The Fountain Global TV. Or you check the men conference on the Facebook, the Fountain Global, you register.
All right.
It's by registration.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much all for joining us. Fredrick Muingi, he's an educationist. Mutheu Kassanga, Education Sector Board Member for the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. And of course, many other titles, including Director, Kenya School. And indeed, Kelvin, a motivational speaker. He tells me he's an ambassador these days. Time for us to put a couple news check. Up next is Tamrini with Khalid Abdullahi. Have yourself a fantastic afternoon.